Everyone, welcome back to another day, another edition here of the RSL, the Rival StarCraft League Season 5 Playoffs Day 3 co-stream. I'm of course your host VIP with you, and joined by these amazing players, by the people in the chat as well, and also by our lovely main casters. We have State and Gemini on the casting couch tonight, and of course we're here to co-stream. For those that are curious, of course, we do always have permission. We have permission to co-stream from the main production, from the main casters before you, of course, so we do have permission to co-stream. This is more of like a reaction stream, if you will. We'll still have the audio of the other casters. We'll still try to, of course, let them weave their tale and kind of tell their story and cast the games. We'll be able to add a little bit more on top of that as well. So here we go. We are back. Second week of playoffs here, and once again, the way the format works here is that each day of playoffs we do have two best of fives, and then we're going to be wrapping up. This does mean we typically have shorter broadcast days. We've had like 2-hour or sometimes even under 2-hour broadcast days for RSL. That's my big criticism. Only having two best of fives is insanely short. It is a way to stretch out the playoffs, I suppose, but at the same time, it's not a lot of games. It's especially in the current meta. But regardless, we're gonna be jumping in here tonight. We are gonna be jumping into the lower brackets. We have the lower bracket matches here to eliminate players from the playoffs. It is gonna be Classic versus Shin and Rogue versus Bunny. You can see the schedule ahead of us as well. We have the RSL over the weekends, and we have GSL during the weekdays. We do co-stream RSL and we live stream GSL. A big shout out to Soup for allowing us and giving us a clean feed and allowing us to cast GSL live. Bearing in mind, we do live cast GSL on Soup, not on Twitch. On Twitch and YouTube, we typically have a rebroadcast stream a couple of days after the fact. Meanwhile, when it comes to live coverage, Soup is the place to be. So do check out our channel on Soup, as we are live every single day for GSL live. And we even cover the qualifiers where no other English caster does. So we were the only English casters covering the qualifiers as well, if you're interested in some GSL content. Otherwise, again, we do have our weekly schedule here. Still plenty more playoff days to go when it comes to the RSL. And also a big shout out to Archon Studio. Archon Studio, of course, they're one of the big sponsors of RSL. And they are soon to be releasing the StarCraft miniatures game. Pre-orders have already closed. They've already closed, and I believe shipping will be occurring at the end of the month. So shipping is on the horizon here to send out the first wave of miniatures. I ordered my beginner sets. I believe, yeah, I did order my beginner set, so I can't wait to get my hands on them and delve into painting them horribly. I'll do my best, Pappy. I'll do my best. I'll set up my little station here. Maybe I'll record, maybe I'll stream. We'll see. Regardless, if you want to support the RSL, you can do so via Patreon, !RSL in the chat. So we're going to link to the Patreon page for the RSL. Again, there's a lot of crowdfunding going on at the moment for different events like GSL, RSL, the CranKy Ducklings, alongside many others as well. So again, there are plenty of ways to support StarCraft in which way you wish, depending on what event you do wish to support. And of course, the RSL has been cranking out quite a number of seasons of RSL already here. There are still things that I want to see out of RSL. The big thing is winners interviews. I'm hoping that State and Tasteless, their experience at GSL, is giving them some ideas on how to improve RSL. And I do think it is a shame that they're live in Korea. They have a studio, and there's so much potential with what they can achieve with that, being in Korea and having so many local players. And I hope that maybe one day they can take advantage of that when it comes to the main studio and bringing players in, having guests on, having some interviews going, of course, and maybe some more content as well. That is the hope. For now, though, Vitas are done, and let's jump in. Let us jump on into our initial best of 5.
Very unique, so it's going to be really cool to see how this works out. But this match in particular, I find is going to be quite interesting. Just coming.
Okay, before they get into it, when it comes to videos, we do have Game 1, XR, Game 2, Rorschach, followed by Ruby Rock, 10,000 feet in the Old Republic. When it comes to this event, bearing in mind as once again, Classic got to take the edge off. Let's go. I don't know if you noticed, but Classic, he's always sipping on some whiskey, some bourbon when it comes to these intense matches. And hey, it works well, Pap. It works well. Got to take that edge off, Pap. Yeah. But the map format of the map pool for this tournament is a mixture of ladder maps and some TLMC maps and some other maps as well. I think they still have They still have some older maps from last season that aren't actually a part of the TLMC that are also in the mix. That's one of my big criticisms as well from RSL, is I would have hoped that they would phase those maps out and only have new TLMC maps in just because they're more relevant, especially with the voting on the horizon, right? Where I believe they still have Necropolis, if I'm not mistaken. I think they still have Necropolis and some of these other quote-unquote older maps instead. Regardless, we have our 5 maps getting ready for us. Game 1, Exarch. Let's go.
Set number 1 here on Exarch, Classic versus SHIN, and a best of 5. The winner surviving in the RSL, the loser dropping out of Season 5.
All right, and they actually do have close spawns as well. It's very interesting. I'm curious if either player will end up scouting that quickly with the little worker path that does go around the edges of the map. I feel like you could do some really...
I forgot that they didn't do intros. In the bottom left-hand corner of Exarch, we have the South Korean Zerg player. We have the red Zerg. It is SHIN. And in the bottom right-hand corner, representing Virtus Pro, we have Classic. And if you're in the chat, you know what time it is. It is Gamba time. Predictions are open. Place your bets on who you think will claim the series. Predictions are open. Best of luck in the chat. Best of luck as we have close spawns by ground, and Classic will find SHIN immediately on this 4-player spawn map.
Yeah, should even opt and go for a pool first, so a very fortuitous scout here for Classic, getting to spot that. And actually, it's going to be a gas follow-up. So pool and extractor before going for hatchery. Might be some early shenanigans coming in.
Might be.
SHIN. Of course, Classic has not yet scouted this. Instead, the probe is waiting at the natural.
As they're alluding to here, very late expansion out of SHIN, hyper aggression with fast gas. This can lead into early link speed. It could even lead into early layer tech as well. But Classic, he has seen everything he needs, so he knows that some shenanigans are occurring.
It's going to be a pylon block there for now, and then, of course, the drone will just be able to move away somewhere else to be able to plant that hatchery, or it's going to come back to try and...
Oh, can he get it? No, the probe! Oh, my God.
Doesn't actually get it down in time. The probe returns. So SHIN trying to be a little bit cheeky, a little bit greedy.
Yeah, SHIN, his expansion's so delayed. He's banking minerals. He's forced to make some extra lings. He wants to take his base, and wants to get another pylon block.
He started the queen even before. A queen and an overlord before he wanted to throw down that hatchery. This hatch has been significantly delayed. Oh, Classic wanted to go in for one more block, but hatch does get thrown down. And now Zergling speed is starting up here for SHIN.
I do like this wall off that Classic's done as well. He's actually fully walled off.
Yo, shout out to How May in the chats. You should partner with Eno or Crank and crowdfund and offline events.
So that means these early...
Unfortunately, we're not in Korea, so I don't know how feasible that's going to be. I know that offline events can be very expensive, but I would say that when it comes to them actually, I say them, when it comes to RSL actually having a studio, like, hey, you already got the infrastructure for it, you know, make use of it. You have a studio, you have all these cameras set up. There is potential to to do more with that kind of space, I should say.
The ramp between these two players' bases. Classic throwing down both pylons and the Stargate here, just out of vision of that Overlord. He's blocking exactly where SHIN might want to come in, and also for Classic, if he wants to take the forward third base from this position, it could be a pretty good one. You know, you have that nice mineral wall behind your base. You have the full wall off with the gateway of the core, the destructible debris at the front of the expansion. Classic might be angling towards...
Yeah, they're just discussing some of the features of the map itself here, how the natural base is a little bit more exposed in a sense, as it is a reverse base. Behind this, we have a Stargate follow-up here out of Classic, playing Standard. SHIN is stumbling his way into the game. Late expansion, late natural. He's rushing into his third base to make up for that. At the same time, his build was delayed because he went for a faster gas and faster spawning pool, and he wasn't able to make use of it. He got fast link speed, but again, isn't really able to achieve much damage.
Oracle, of course, even getting some extra shield batteries just in case. I'm actually kind of surprised with how defensive Classic is being with this early game, because he's already got one. He's getting a second one, just sniffing something out right now, potentially that could be aggressive, but nothing's coming his way right now. He just wants to make sure he doesn't get killed off. Because of course he hasn't had that follow-up scout just yet with that you normally would get with the early adept.
So it sounds like the casters are a little bit perplexed as to why Classic is being so defensive. The reasoning why he's being so defensive is because of the opener. Remember, it was fast pull and fast gas. There's a high chance that would have been fast lair tech or fast roaches, and Classic didn't confirm, right? He didn't confirm which one it was going to be, so that's why he's being overly safe. We can see that SHIN didn't go into early tech, instead he played from behind. So Classic is being overly defensive here due to his lack of scouting information. At the same time, SHIN is trying to play catch up as he does fall behind because of the openers, as he did open up aggressively, but there was no aggression.
Setting up for a third Nexus over here by the 4 o'clock position, and SHIN has enough links. I think he might be able to delay this, but not if both Oracles come back.
Yeah, nice for Classic just to make sure he can confirm that he gets this third base, so the Oracles weren't able to do all that much on the other side of the map, but that doesn't matter because you can just go ahead and secure your...
Behind this, we have a fast Eva chamber out of Shin, going to +1 melee, so it's going to be a Ling Hydra heavy style, actually a Ling Bane Hydra heavy style, okay.
Shin cannot get anything done with all the stuff that he's doing, all these little tricks and whatnot. So lots of early Lings that are being made here for Shin haven't found any use just yet, but we do have a very fast Baneling nest coming in, so he might try to pull some kind of interesting trick up his sleeve as well, going for a fast Baneling attack.
No, he gets in! Oh my god!
There. Those little mineral thingies with the worker path don't actually fully wall that off, so the Lings will get inside, start killing off
3
probes before getting killed off by the Adepts and Oracles.
Yeah,
we've seen this happen with Hero as well. It's very hard to actually place the Adept at the exact right position with the mineral gap. I think the hitbox are just not something.
See, this is where we make fun of it a little bit and be like, yo, Classic doing his best hero impression. And again, winding it back, to be fair, because of that worker-only path, I believe it does make it a little bit more awkward, maybe a little bit more wider, and you need a little bit more there to fully wall that off. But now Classic's going for his own counterattack. I do like that Gemini brought up that the Baliness is abnormal. It is true. The Baliness is abnormal this early on. It will help when it comes to the defense, but Adept's already here.
Some damage done. I don't think Shin is going to be relying on Banelings to deal with this. He has more than enough Lings that he should just be able to corral these Adepts.
We're heading towards the third
base or the natural expansion.
It does open.
We'll see what Classic's able to get done.
That's close.
The 3 Oracles is quite a lot as well, though, so the Queens
He
need
gets
to
in.
all be together. Otherwise, the Oracles will be able to just DPS them down very easily, and we're going to just run into the main base, but a nice catch by the Zerglings. We'll be able to deny that and force a recall. A couple of drones do get killed off as the Oracles will get a few as well. As
there's no space.
There's
no space. No, God.
But then get a few on the exit as well. Okay, nicely done by Classic, actually, in the end.
It's like going to the circus and playing with the bumper cars, man. Those Oracles. That was some funny movement.
Yeah, I didn't realize just how tight that area is behind the third. Lings, they move in. There's no shield battery. They will trade against the Adepts, and they do pick off a Stalker. There's somewhat of a trade here, but overall, Classic does hold.
For Shin, as the game is starting to normalize a little bit, Shin going for a Spire now. A lot more Lings actually in production. And it's notable that Shin, he's going into the Spire and the Hydralisk Den at the same time. It seems like he's kind of hedging his bets in terms of what to do here versus the different potential setups of Classic. But Shin is notably doing this on a relatively low drone count. He's only at 67 drones, which basically perfectly saturates 3 bases. And, you know, in a minute and a half, once the main base starts to mine out, he will be transferring some drones down to this 4th expansion. But it seems like Shin is really focused on the short term right now.
So the big issue here for Shin is that, one, he's behind. They were pointing out his low drone count, and a big reason for that is because of how much damage he's been sustaining from the Adepts and from the Oracles. So he's at low economy. He's setting up for a 3 base all in, but he's also taking up in a lot of different directions. Doesn't really have the money for it. Meanwhile, once again, another thing run by. Oh my god, he gets it again. Do we deny Storm?
Also, the Templar Archives could deny Storm, would be massive. The Stalkers
does he deny? Show us the main
as well. Classic looking in 2 different directions at the same exact time. We'll be able to deal with the Lings, but a lot of infrastructure getting killed off and the push delayed from Classic.
Nice catch.
Cybernetics Core losing all of these Stalkers plus 6
very nice
on top of it. This Ling Flood style from Shin on just 67 drones is really starting to pay off. As Shin coming back into the natural expansion, there are a lot of Zealots warping in with +1 ground weapon, so they can 2-shot those Zerglings. That's going to have Shin pivot down to the 3rd base, see if he can find some damage, but Classic has finally buttoned up the defense with a photon cannon with a shield battery. And the game might quiet down a little bit from here, but I think that was a really nice move by Shin.
Yeah, really nice counterattack there out of Shin. He didn't really kill many workers, but he did disrupt the flow of the game. He was able to shut down some production, able to pull back the army, and gave him room for mutas. And while all this is happening, more importantly, Shin is droning, right? Shin has been droning up. Shin is now up to 80 workers from his previous 67. GG! Oh my god!
He leaves the game, Shin, with a great recovery after an early game that was not going his favor.
Yeah, man, I really thought that game might quiet down a little bit after those Lings and static defense started to get up there for Classic.
Oh, it did quiet down, but not in the way you were probably meaning.
Not in the way that I was expecting. No, the mutas getting on the field were just able to really destabilize Classic to the point where, you know, the position, you just considered it.
GG, well played. Again, when it came to the muta play, I was concerned that Shin's economy was too low where he wouldn't be able to sustain getting into muta production and also the hydrogen, or also trying to re-drone as well, but it all came down to Ling counterattack. Like, Shin was behind. To be honest, like, Shin was in a really rough position, but really nice Ling aggression. And I guess what we should also emphasize is that part of why that Ling aggression was so successful is because of the map itself. every single time. Classic, he had one adept on hold position at that mineral wall, and every single time it was not wide enough, or the wall was too wide for the adept, and Lings, they fled in. I mean, that's what allowed all the Lings to get into the main base. That's maybe a bit of an oversight, once again, as you mentioned, because specifically it's a mineral patch next to a worker only path, and there's a gap there. It looks like maybe one adept is not actually enough to fully wall that area off. You will need 2 adepts, or maybe a mixture of SimCity there instead, but that's part of the inexperience of the map, right? In a world where Classic properly walls that area off, Ling floods and Ling runbys are less successful. It's a stronger defense. That means there's more aggression out of Classic. He's able to apply pressure. There's a lower chance that Shin can get away with muted production as he's trying to hold on against the main push, with Storm coming his way as well, and then maybe we get a different game. But again, so really nice seeing runbys. Again, it's a bit of a learning curve when it comes to the map itself, when it comes to trying to wall off and secure that area. If you do decide to mine that patch that's next to the worker only path, it might be a thing where you have to mine through a different patch instead, just to actually have a secure wall.
Better start here as map number 2 is loaded in.
Who's going to be the one to try and say the name first?
Rorschach?
Rorschach, right?
Yeah, Rorschach.
Okay,
Yeah.
Rorschach. Dude, I don't know why this name just messes with my brain so much. It's so hard to say that. It doesn't look like it should be said in the way that it actually is said.
Well, it's named after a psychologist, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's like the psychology. He made the ink block test.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
Rorschach,
like, I don't know, the name itself is like, for some reason, it just messes with my brain.
Are we not like the Watchmen fans? Are we gonna? That's what's going on.
Anyways, let's go into this game, of course, as it's going to just be
Gemini put forward.
a pretty standard one overall from Classic's POV. Someone that does like to go for just the overall standard stuff in this matchup. You saw he was trying to go for the Blink Stalker Oracle play in the mid game, of course. Something that's very normal and something that he's been doing to great success overall in the last year or so. But I feel like in the last couple of months, ever since that one patch that, of course, came out after the the Storm rework and everything, it feels like Classic has been on a little bit of a downward trend overall compared to some of the other players. So
What?
It would be great if he could rebound here to try and get some of that momentum going again.
Yeah, I agree with that analysis, but also let's remember that Classic, last season in the GSL, I believe it was a top 8 finish for him. Here in the RSL, he's also, I think, already top 8 in this RSL. In the GSL Season 2, he is in top 8. So by the standards that he has created for himself by being arguably the best Protoss in the world last year, this is a bit of a turn down, but he is still one of the best players by a long shot. It's just, I think the current meta doesn't quite favor Classic style. Classic's always been capable of kind of doing anything, whether it be a timing attack or an all-in or just playing a long macro game, but I think specifically in 2025 and forward, the most defining aspect of Classic's play has been defense, macro, late game, above everything else. And we're currently in a period of StarCraft 2 where it seems like specifically in ZVP, so much of the game comes down to how well Zerg is able to deal with the early harassment of Protoss, with Adepts, with Oracles, with early timing attacks, say Blink Stalker's trying to deny a 4th base, Glaive's trying to get a bunch of drone kills, something like that. And also, Zerg trying to win in the mid-game. So it's very early.
So
focused,
I would
like
probably
Classic,
push back against a lot of what's being said here. Like, they're talking about Classic and his current performances and expectations of Classic. I do agree that expectations are high for Classic, and I would say that Classic's performance in GSL Season 1 was an underperformance, if you recall. Like, at Classic, he did struggle, or I should say he was favored in certain matches where he did end up losing. But I don't necessarily know if I would necessarily say it was meta related. Like, I think a good example of that is that we remember we had an interview with Classic for the GSL Season 2 matches, and he said himself that he was overconfident and that he underestimated Zaun and he underestimated his other opponents, which led into closer games that they otherwise should have been. Classic is still like top 2 Protoss in the world. He's still up there with Hero. So they're talking about like this downward trend of Classic. Like, he's still winning tournaments, he's still performing quite well. Specifically in RSL and GSL, he underperformed, but I would still say that was an underperformance, not that he's like, I don't know, say gotten worse in his play or anything like that. I do think there is some truth in what they just said about the meta of the game, but I would have said that that was also the meta last year as well. Which is hyper aggression, and that's not just for ZVP. This is the reason why RSL broadcast days have been like less than 2 hours long. It's because in TVP as well and ZVP, it's been hyper aggression. As the Oracle does get in, the Oracle's not quite, sorry, the Spore is not quite done. Oh my god. Three drones go down. But quickly touching on it, like there is some truth behind the fact that like hyper aggression has been favored as of late, but that's been the case for the past 2 years. The map pool itself though has been favoring more aggressive builds, just because we don't have a map like Tourmaline. But there were a couple of maps last season which did favor defensive play more, so we got a lot more late game, and we've kind of gotten out of that. And if you recall, I was going to have an analysis stream, and we still have to have a TLMC analysis stream talking about the current map pool and kind of how things have changed when it comes to the meta and how aggression has been more favored. I am of the opinion that we were a little bit too extreme last season when it comes to hyper aggressive maps, and hopefully that is like toned down a little bit more as we get into TLMC 22. Hopefully.
Is it going to be a kind of a wacky charge first, which we don't see as much anymore? Is it going to be a glaive attack? Wow, okay, never mind. He's going for the charge. He will go straight into charge. I believe he's not seen a roach warren, so that will be a big.
Yeah, once again, we have an early baneling nest out of SHIN. If you recall, we actually didn't make any banelings last game. He had the safety nest, but didn't really invest. Meanwhile, once again, Classic not going for Blink, going for that early charge and early storm timing.
Decides to play a very defensive game where he's getting Archons early on. He has just a couple of Templar for storms and is pretty slow taking the 4th base. Then being able to warp in, a handful of Zealots at one of these ulterior bases and then just kind of rolling them across the map, trying to find damage at either the 3rd or the potential 4th base of SHIN. It's a pretty good approach in the PvZ mid game, especially with a fast +1.
But in games, of such a theme is clearly a crime against humanity. True. I mean, we don't really promote too much like balance discussions or anything like that, but there's like a quote-unquote patch on the horizon. A big issue regarding it right now, regarding the current meta, is Protoss and Protoss strength in the late game in both versus Terran and versus Zerg, which is why we've just had non-stop like hyper-aggressive early games and early mid games as well, from Zerg and Terran.
Of course, some of these newer maps, some of the players are not as accustomed to.
And hopefully that can be addressed,
might
right?
Just slip the mind a little bit, so we'll see if Classic is in the headspace to even scout for that possibility.
SHIN has been doing this quite a bit recently on Rorschach, I think. I just saw a series cast by Pig between SHIN and Clem, which was absolutely worth watching, where they played here on Rorschach, and SHIN kind of did the same thing. He took the gold base there at the 12 o'clock very early on. And so I like him incorporating this. Oftentimes when we have new maps like this played in the RSL or other online tournaments, it's the player who's better able to utilize the unique features of the map to their advantage that is going to be winning the series. And so SHIN coming to play here. Let's see if Classic actually is going to be spawning this 12 o'clock expansion. As of yet, he has no idea.
I mean, hopefully he checks. If you were here last night, you would know that Beyond versus Classic was also on this map, and Beyond did rush into the gold, and Classic shut it down very hard, and was one to check it early on. So that happened last night. We'll see if he does check here tonight, 24 hours later.
Is the Ling Bane and the Hydras coming out from SHIN going to be
Bailey's have to get ready though.
This attack without taking devastating damage?
I don't know. Those Bailings, it's
there's going to be no storm, but that's a lot of Bailings.
Four more are about to transform, but they're only about halfway done. This gives Classic the time to actually navigate up to the top left side of this map, potentially take down this expansion. I think SHIN's going to be really relying on those Bailings to hold on to the 3 bases that he's got in the Hydras, and also, crossing his fingers and hoping that Classic doesn't spot the 12 o'clock base, because if Classic goes there right now, that base is just forfeit. There's nothing I think SHIN can do to actually defend it.
Oh no, that random Hydra.
Oh boy.
Did he realize why that was
there?
Does he check?
He's not checking.
From that base. It doesn't seem like he's putting 2 and 2 together. Very lucky for SHIN that is not being scouted by Classic. He saw the creep. He sees a tiny little bit of this creep. Doesn't quite realize it, and that's actually massive again for SHIN. The fact that he's able to keep this gold base alive is the only thing that's going to give him a leeway in the later stages of this game.
Yeah, and that's such a small sliver of creep, and the tile set of the map in that region is so dark that I don't think Classic is actually going to notice until he actually sends another unit up here. Potentially, say you grab a couple of Zealots, you kind of might shift-click them between all the different bases on their way to SHIN's side of the map. That might be the way that Classic is eventually going to be finding this 12 o'clock expansion.
Yeah, coming into this kind of game state, Classic would be ahead if he was aware of the goal and if he could shut it down. The fact that he missed it means that SHIN, he can recover. He can build up a greater economy and mass up an army in time. Storm is done. We have more upgrades on the way for Classic, but SHIN should soon have a boosted economy.
He's in a very good spot, given the fact that he thinks he killed that 4th base with no contention from SHIN. Of course, needs to realize that there is a base.
He's checking. He is
so close. He's so close to actually putting these pieces together, and still will not be getting that information.
I think he still just might not know. The observer, it's in that region. It sees the army movement. But Classic just thinks, I believe, that this is SHIN setting up for a big attack.
Oh, this is kind of crazy right now. Classic needs to kind of realize this. I feel like this could get a little out of control.
So Classic is on the turtle up. He's turtling up in the Sky Toss. Fleet Beacons on the way.
Committing to the eco or anything like that. He is still going for this big attack, so it's not coming into super big effect at the moment. However, this attack is still very large, and this might be more units than Classic is expecting.
Very nice.
Right,
Jeez, oh my god.
Small piece of this army. This is huge for Classic actually defending this push. Is right now SHIN, he's leveraging the gold base economy to try and go for a timing attack. So even if Classic was aware of it, I don't think he could do anything with the presence of the map that SHIN has right now to try and counter. Instead, it's all about the defense as SHIN is getting in on this fourth base, taking on both sides. The Storm's coming down, able to catch a lot
Templar
of those
goes down. There's still 3 Storms.
Some good damage on the Hydras. Simultaneously, Bailing's running into the third base. 15 probes and counting are going to fall. I think Classic might have just enough to hold on here, but the economic damage, it's pretty substantial.
Yeah,
some more units are still streaming in for SHIN, so he's going to still try to keep this location, but tons of Archons are still on the field. Lots more Storms coming on out, so this will be a defense for Classic. More Zealots coming in on the Warpin as well. Should be able to defend this for now. 20 probes lost is the counter. There's going to be some more coming in from SHIN, so this isn't quite over yet, but so far a good hold from Classic.
So something that's keeping Classic in this game is that SHIN didn't drone. They pointed it out briefly earlier, the casters I mean, but SHIN, he cut workers at 66, that's 3 base saturation. It is a boosted economy because of the gold, so that does help a little bit, but this does still limit the overall income of SHIN. It does mean this Remax takes quite some time, so Classic has time to recover and to breathe.
Now we have a mothership also joining in. And Classic is getting to the stage of the game where he plays the best. This is Classic basically trying to build a super army. It's going to be him making a lot of Archons. It's going to be him trying to build up a sizable Templar count. And usually the Zealots that are added in here for Classic, once he feels safe, they're going to be utilized for harassment. But the pressure, it's not over yet. SHIN, he's doubling down. He's going in for another attack.
Yeah, Cloak is enabled immediately for Classic, but there is
Good
an overseer,
reactions.
so that's going to help a little bit. A couple
one.
Banelings trying to deep dive to get on top of those Templar, trying to force the Storms out early, so then the rest of the Hydras and Banelings can then dish out the damage. A couple of Zealots also going around the base, still have not found that gold base, amazingly. Will eventually find it, but the time warp is slowing down as well.
GG SHIN, he fails to all in.
Classic with a great hold.
No shot.
Even with the gold base taken there by SHIN, you know, Classic didn't find it, he wasn't aware of it, and SHIN had a...
GG, well played. Again, SHIN, he forced himself all in. And it's really weird because, honestly, he didn't need to. Right? SHIN did not need to be all in that game. He had map control, he had the gold base. If he wanted to, he could have gotten another expansion and drawn up to 80 with that boosted economy as well, and then he could have been able to sustain himself. But as we pointed out, he stayed on a low drone count, so he couldn't really sustain himself. Even with that gold expansion, it was not enough, and he failed to kill. GG, well played. With that, we have a tied up series. Classic successfully defends, and now we have a back and forth.
Nice for Classic to be able to be kind of that stone wall that we're more used to seeing out of him this game, whereas last game it just kind of got busted down.
Yeah, he picked up the shield.
Classic actually in 2 different moments in that game was able to kind of catch SHIN unprepared. First when he sniped what was the 5th base in the top left side. You know, SHIN, he was warping in Banelings, I think 6 or 10 of them in total, but they were just finishing at the moment where Classic was attacking the top left, so SHIN couldn't actually deal with it. And then SHIN, again, as you said, he was trying to set up for this big attack from 2 different sides, coming in at the 4th base of Classic, but Classic, again, with proactive army movement, able to catch the army of SHIN, isolate one small section, take the win. Well played by Classic.
Comes a break.
Yes, go ahead and
so GG, well played. With that, we're tied up 1-1 here. We have a back and forth series. We're going to be coming to a short break, and when we come back, we will have the remainder of this best of 5. Remember, tonight we only have 2 best of 5s, only 2 best of 5s. So we gotta cherish them while we can, Bap. Yeah, we gotta make the most out of them here. And again, so far we have that back and forth. I believe up next we're gonna be going back to the regular map pool though. So we had some fun with Rorschach and with Exarch. We do appreciate those maps, of course, but I believe now we're going to be calming things down and entering a more standard map pool here with our ladder maps. Otherwise, once again, if you want to support the RSL, you can do so via their Patreon, !RSL in the chat, and we'll see you guys soon with the remainder of the series. We'll see you soon.
even if you're watching live on Twitch or on some other streaming platforms.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the RSL, 2026 Season of 5 Playoffs Day number 3 co-stream. We're currently mid-series. We're currently tied up at 1-1 with Classic and Shin. So far, we have that back and forth here. It's been a pretty intense series so far. It's been very aggressive. We have yet to really experience too much mid to late game. Basically, Shin has been hyper aggressive, and game 1 it worked, but I also mentioned that part of it may just be because on X-Arc it can be more awkward to wall off. I mean, I say maybe that was the case, right? Multiple times we saw that Classic had a adept on hold position, despite that Ling still flooded through, and that did lead into Shin's success in that game. But now we're loading into game 3. Let's go. Let's go.
Two Titans really fighting for their lives here on Ruby Rock. It is exciting times indeed as we have Shin spawning in the bottom right as the red Zerg, Classic, the blue Protoss in the top left.
I'll settle for at least that intro, I guess. It's okay. It's okay.
Like that just always happens at least once in a series.
Glaives,
in a PvZ. Yeah, like the Glaive follow-up to Stargate. I feel like that just kind of happens in general once a PvZ at all. Like I feel like we're just kind of waiting to see when that happens. I feel like this is a decent map for it just because it's a little bit smaller, a little bit closer rush distances. This could be where Classic tries to bring something like that out. Shin got absolutely destroyed with that build against Hero in the upper bracket, so something that could come to effect here in this matchup as well. So I'm looking to see if Classic wants to throw that in and when that will actually
I'm sure he will.
And we'll see if Classic's going to go for it. Shin opting for the hatch.
Yes, touching on what Gemini just said, he's correct in stating that it is quite common for the top Protoss players to mix in Glaive Adepts, and especially on Ruby Rock because of the shorter rush distance by ground, because of the open bases, aggression is favored, and even though Classic does have a reputation of being a very defensive player, he can be aggressive. Like, he can be in your face, he can definitely have this more aggressive nature to him. He's not as chaotic as Hero, but he's not as defensive as like Showtime, for example, right? Like Classic, he's willing to get down and dirty with his opponents from time to time.
What exactly these guys are going to do, because yeah, that's literally all there is to wait for in this early game. We got probes messing with minerals and drones. Of course, if you can get a couple blocks, you can maybe deny 0.5 minerals per minute or something like that. But it honestly just asserts dominance, to be honest. You know, that's the real thing that they're trying to do. I feel like that's what I do whenever I'm playing. I'm not caring about how many minerals I'm blocking. I'm just like, can I micro better than you?
Yeah, but I've seen you stream. When you're doing this, Gemini, you go back to your base and like all of your minerals, you have like 3 on the fire patches and 1 on the close patches. Your supply
to make my second pylon. Yeah,
the Nexus is 30 seconds
the
late.
The 22 pylon has been missed so many times because I'm just focusing so hard to try and just destroy them in the mineral micro.
The game's really fast, man. I've been laddering a lot more recently, and it's harder than it looks to do something as simple as just execute good worker harass while also following a build to a T back at home. I mean, just have so much respect for players like Classic and Shin and really everybody else that competes at the pro level, because they're...
I can confirm, by the way, I did see State on the ladder. I think even yesterday, actually, when fun fact, when we were casting Tunic up, I was looking for players. I was checking my friends list, and State was laddering, and I was surprised. I was like, oh, there you go.
Complete the shade
That's
as well
the State.
to try and get that deep scout, since he's got a lot of room without creep to be able to move around. We'll be able to confirm that spawning pool is there, of course, and researching.
Otherwise, it's just been a standard opener. Standard opener.
Or anything like that, which does come into play every now and then. You might see some early lair all-in or something like that, but very rare, but still want to try to get that information if possible.
Yeah, even seeing drones getting rallied down from the main base to the natural expansion is meaningful information here for Classic, because 330 is the mark where speed should be finishing up, and it finishes up right at 334. And that means that Classic, this is the moment where you might want to be a little bit cautious about potentially Lings coming across the map to try and get to your natural or your main base. Try and go for the third, especially when you do, say, a third Nexus before Gateway, the way that Classic did. And that Adept basically gave Classic the information that he needs to go for this build. Otherwise, you know, if he's in the dark, maybe you need to throw down a second Gateway to finish walling off the natural expansion before he can go for this third.
Does
Yeah,
it
it's
break?
good calculated greed overall from Classic, knowing that he's safe to go for this. And the second Oracle just makes it
Yeah, they're talking about Classic cutting some corners here when it comes to the timing of his third Nexus. I would say it's pretty standard, as in to cut said corner, especially on some of these other maps. We have been seeing it's quite difficult to try to punish a Protoss player early on. Behind this, we have a standard follow-up here, Forge into Twilight Council at a standard timing. It's looking like +1 and Blink for the first time in the series, to be fair. We've been seeing a lot of charge at a Classic.
When you're going for that build, as the Oracles will try to come on in, get a couple of drones, will one-shot just a few, 4 in total actually.
Oh my
is
God.
Quite nice from your first 2 Oracles, as that Queen is getting juked all over the place, and those Oracles will get out.
Did this got the lair?
Yeah, when you get the Forge this early, I feel like it's most of the time going to be charge and +1 ground weapons, although it could also be Blink. Both styles are an option here for Classic.
Both are viable
here.
here.
The tech of choice is going to be, and a robotics facility quite early coming in here for Classic. What is this going to be?
You can see him waiting on the Templar Arc, or sorry, the Twilight Council as well. He's kind of waiting.
Yeah, this should be charge. I mean, I was going to say the Robo typically means charge as the follow-up, not Blink. But as I mentioned at earlier Temple Archives as well. Now, before all of that, the Oracles did get a lot of damage done early on. They're able to get another drone here as they do weave past. And Shin did go lair first, not Evo Chamber first. So this time he's going to a more Roach or more tech-heavy style, less so Ling
See
Bane.
how that actually comes into effect in this game, because this looks like a situation where Classic would rather prefer going for Blink, but you can still try to make this work anyways.
Well, Classic's PvZ is so Archon focused that I think this was just the plan coming in from the beginning to go for the charge. It's just that he wants the Templar Archives, he wants Storm as fast as possible, because oftentimes when you as the Protoss player are going for Storm, the biggest vulnerability that you're going to have is the moments before
Ooh,
Storm
and speaking of tech heavy, I thought it was going to be Roach Hydra. It's going to be Roach into Spire. Okay.
Going for the Storm before charge, going for the Storm before adding in the 6 additional gateways, or beginning Immortal production.
Oh,
it makes sure that Classic does have Storm online by the time
5 drones as well, by the way.
Map. If Shin is gunning for some sort of time.
6!
Classic is doing great with these Oracles as well. He's really just finding weaknesses in Shin's defense. These Queens are not quite responding perfectly in the right
Yeah, that's crazy damage. And he scouted. I don't know if he noticed what he scouted, but he did see the Spire.
On the Spire from Classic as well. So great moves from the Oracles. Not something you normally see in the PvZ matchup. Generally at this point, the Queens are able to, you know, zone them away pretty easily, but Classic finding little holes here and there.
Interesting revelation, by the way, by Classic. I think he cast Revelation on those rocks, and originally I thought it was for him to go for the tumors, but I don't think he actually activated an Oracle to take down the tumors.
So very important to bring up here is that Shin, does he know that he got scouted, right? Shin, he let the Spire finish, and we are going into Muta production here, but again, Classic, hopefully he's aware as to what's going on. I don't know if he really recognized what he had seen. He's getting cannons.
So each player has basically full 3 base saturation right now. 66 drones is what you need. It's 22 per base.
He shows up behind this.
So I think we likely will see Classic cut workers at this amount for at least the foreseeable future, because he needs to get all hands on deck to try and hold.
I feel like if Classic was aware of the Spire, we would see a Phoenix. Like, he how big is the Phoenix, but it's quite late. Yeah, it's a late response.
Yeah, definitely breaking away from that 67 worker count right there, as the Mutas will start to go across the map. Nice reactions overall, though, from Classic, because he got that scout very early. He's already got some cannons in position. He's got some batteries. He's got double Stargate coming out with Phoenix as well. So
damn.
These Mutas will not do anything. Unfortunately for Classic, that was not a lot of Mutas that Shin actually invested into, although he's actually now going into a bunch of Corruptors, so he might actually try to go for the whole Muta Corruptor style, and yes, he will. Okay, so I was at first going to say this is just a bait and switch. Force your opponent to overreact to the Muta defense while you go into a huge Roach Ravager ground army. But it's actually going to be the full commitment to Muta Corruptor. It's straight up Heart of the Swarm style right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this, because Classic, he was opting to go for a second Stargate, perhaps regardless of this, although it might be a response here to the Muta. In any case, the second Stargate, it is excellent at churning out Phoenix.
Yeah, for those who are curious, it was a response to the Mutas.
What Shin is going for, and if Classic really catches wind of this, throws down a Fleet Beacon for Phoenix range, and also begins getting +1 air weapons, the Phoenix begin to outscale Mutalist Corruptor so hard, so quickly, that eventually, you know, if Shin wants to try and take a favorable trade, he's going to rely on something like Parasitic Bomb or Fungal to actually get a good exchange. And Shin doubling down on this, you know, Classic, he has not missed a beat. He just continues the Phoenix production.
Well,
Let's see what Shin can get done.
Oof.
He's going to try to dive bomb the main here.
He does try to commit in. So far, does pick up one of the Oracles. The Corruptors, they sustain themselves. There's very little ground support for Classic, but there we go. Now he warps in some Stalkers, defends against the Ducklings, and the Mutas, they are under fire.
It's not super high enough in number just yet, as we saw Classic actually delay the Phoenix
Exactly,
for
no
just
blink.
a moment, because he needed to confirm if Shin was actually committing to them or not, so he's not been making them fully consistently, and now this fourth base is going to get canceled by the Roach Ravager. Pretty decent start overall, I would say, from Shin.
Oh no, this is excellent. Classic honestly fumbling the defense a little bit.
I mean, Classic, he has to, right? He has to. Oh no, the High Templar! No, he's gonna lose one. Oh my god.
So he will not get picked off by that paltry number of roaches. But you know, Classic, he was kind of panicking when Shin came into the main base with all these Mutas and Corruptors. He brought in Immortals, he brought in Zealots, he brought all the Templar to the main base, the same way that we see him doing right now. Yeah. And that culminated in Classic actually losing the fourth expansion. The Nexus was about 75%, maybe a little bit more complete. The ground forces were not there to actually defend. Oh,
those storms could have been really good. Of course, Shin is able to move away.
As they're bringing up, the initial response to the Mutas was good for Classic, but here the follow-up has been very lackluster, and he's falling apart. Yeah, Shin is moving in. He's going for the third.
It's another storm trying to keep these units away for now. We'll be able to kill
Gets
off
into the
some
mineral
of
line.
these, but yeah, Shin is doing a pretty good job of just kind of keeping the tempo up, just kind of going back and forth between the different bases, making Classic just run all over the place, trying to defend everything, and he's getting extra bases set up himself. He's got so many exterior bases at this point. He's getting spine crawlers up as well to deny possible counterattacks, and he just keeps diving into the main.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit... I would love to see Classic start +1 air weapons with this, because +1 air weapons, because Phoenix have 2 shots, it makes such a difference when you're battling Corruptors with their high base armor. I really think it might be a mistake here for Classic not going for this. Of course, gas when you're playing on 3 bases like this one, it is hard to
I think it's they're talking a little bit about the lack of upgrades for Classic. I think more importantly here, Classic's being torn apart. The upgrades don't matter here. He has no fourth base. He has no economy. The third is being overwhelmed. Like focusing and fixating on the lack of like +1 attack, I feel like it's. Yeah, we gotta set up. We gotta set our priority state, man. We gotta set.
A barely 100 supply right now. Shin nearly maxed.
Yeah, this is looking great.
It's a guy. If only at +1. True. If only.
And the Mutas and Corruptors are barely even getting touched. There's a couple storms that get thrown down. The Phoenix might be able to pick off one here and there, but this Mutaball is not dying. They're able to fight up against the cannons as well, forcing all of Classic's army to respond every single time it moves anywhere.
Oof.
And now that Phoenix range is finished, it will be a much easier time for Classic to be able to kite this army. As you can see right here, he's starting to get some better trades overall. And a nice storm actually there as well. 2 of them going down. We'll be able to soften those Mutas up quite nicely, but I feel like the damage definitely has been done at this point. As you said, Shin is already maxed, still maxed. He's got tons of bases, like I was saying earlier as well. He's really putting himself into a nice position to try to end this game.
Well, this is where it's really important to bring it back to Rorschach, is what I would say, is that you compare this game to one of the other games where Shin had map control, where Shin had momentum, but on Rorschach, Shin stayed on a low drone count, if you remember. He stayed on 66 workers. Here, as opposed to that, Shin, he gains map control, he gains momentum, and he's on 90 drones. So this means that even if Shin takes a bad fight, as long as he's containing Classic, it's perfectly fine. Shin is just dominating here this map, dominating this game, containing Classic on a low base count, even trading poorly at times or taking storms to the face. It's perfectly fine. Shin has a bank. He can afford it.
Shin just firing on all cylinders.
A couple storms just trying to zone everything away and give space to the Phoenix, but then just dive bombing those is Shin with his Mutas. Good damage overall onto them again, but if you just don't kill the Mutas, then they're not actually going to, they just run away and just heal up. They have that very fast healing as well when they're out of combat, so it's very difficult to actually confirm the death of these
doing great job zoning.
Phoenix count is so low. Units getting caught out in the front as well. 13 more probes getting killed off. Classic is on 36 right now, as he's still struggling to try to get a couple more Phoenixes out. And sure, that's going to be great if you can get some more Phoenixes,
Templar.
Mutas, but there was just a bunch of Ultras on the production tab as well from Shin.
Yeah, the Ultra switch is going to be brutal here for Classic, as so much of his economy, it's focused on dealing with the air of Shin. And Shin just traded out a lot of Corruptors, a lot of Mutas, pretty fairly well, might I add. I mean, that was good there in the main base. He got Templar, he got a lot of Phoenix. Classic feels like he has to double down on the Phoenix and continue production. That is not going to help you against the Ultras. Let me tell you, Gemini, little tip for you. Phoenix, they cannot lift up Ultras.
Whoa, really?
This is gonna be absolutely
they can't
savage.
lift,
8 Ultras coming onto the field. +3 melee weapons is getting researched. +2 Carapace is getting researched. Ultra armor will be done in just a couple of moments. And I'm scared right now for Classic. He still doesn't have a fourth base, and you know what? He's saying, I have to.
He's all in. At this point, Classic is all in. He sends everything across the map. It's all or nothing, and the Ultras are here to beat him. The Ultras, the power bombs. Oh my god.
Dude, he had no idea as well. I mean, look at his ground army. It's got nothing. Look at that. Shin with a very decisive game. It was 14 minutes. It kind of took him a little bit to get there, but that's just kind of the nature of the style. He was in control that entire time.
Yeah, it's kind of a war of attrition that you play as the Mutacorruptor player, where you're keeping Protoss.
Yeah, GG, well played. Shinny takes the lead in the series. I'd push back against this statement here, bearing in mind that Classic had the stronger start. Remember, Classic, he was like crippling the economy. He was killing drones across the map. He killed 4 and then 5 workers across the map. He scouted the Spire. Everything was looking good. But if you remember, we were a little bit concerned about his scout of the Spire because he had a late reaction to it. He did get a cannon, but it took him a long time to start a Phoenix and to get a second Stargate as well. So a very diminished or very delayed reaction from Classic to the Muta play. And as they pointed out, to give credit, they did point out that it looked like Classic was frazzled by the initial revelation of all the Mutas because he overreacted, and then that was the first domino that fell. It wasn't until that moment where Shin gained control of the game. I think it's important to emphasize kind of the momentum switch from one player to the other, where Classic had the stronger start, and then bam, Mutas got into the main base, Classic F2'd into the main, the ground army hit the 4th base, 4th, which was almost done, was cancelled, and once that 4th base went down, Classic never regained that 4th. He never had an economy, he never had control of his bases. It all just snowballed out of control from there. GG, well played, and with that we're getting into game number 4. Let's go.
Because we had Immortals and Zealots in the main base that weren't defending the economy of Classic on the ground. And then also, I go back to the +1 air weapons. I really didn't think it would have made a difference early on. It's such a corruptor-heavy regiment of units in the air there for Shin. In any case,
I was gonna make a joke that that Stay was gonna bring up the +1. I didn't think he would, but he did.
One more map to advance to the next round at lower bracket.
Again, it's one of those things where it's like one of those like Reddit comments where like technically yes, that would have been better. That's true, but that's not the reason why things got out of hand. Like it's not something to necessarily point at.
Likes to try and be very passive and defensive, and
like him getting Classic getting +1 would not have caused him to not overreact the way that he did, like rushing into the main base to defend the main and to lose the 4th base. Like those events would have still happened. We're going for the rush. Let's go.
On the left, and he's going to try to mine out these minerals. He's going to mine the minerals, and then he goes into the gas, and it replaces the minerals with gas, so then you can mine more minerals. So you don't have to bring a whole bunch of drones to do that quickly. You can do it with just 1 or 2. So this is going to be
busy fighting fires, worry about upgrades. Yes, exactly. Everything was on fire.
Into a macro stage.
And how quickly is Classic going to realize
the upgrade would not have put the fire out? But he's on patrol. He scouts. He sees.
So sparsely populated that something.
Once again, the way this works here is that because of the gas geyser, 1 drone is all you need to slowly delete the gas in your hands, mine minerals, delete minerals, mine gas. But Classic, he should be aware. Uh-oh.
Gonna see with the
yeah, he does.
Well,
if he didn't know already, he knows now.
Yeah, so he gets that confirmation.
Can he wall in time? Can he wall in time?
That Zealot down there as well, and he's got his probe coming up, so he's going to be able to.
Okay, Zealot gets in position.
So this should be pretty easily
nice
defended from Classic, I would say. This is not worked out the way that Shin has wanted just yet.
The probe is going to go down.
This probe, and you might be able to sneak on past as the Zealot is not quite in the same position there. So we'll get into the main base, but this is still looking like it's going to be a defense overall from Classic, and it's going to be up to Shin to be able to respond and react, of course, getting his hatchery down there as well. It is natural, trying to go into a
now, bearing in mind that link speed was researched early this game, there was a fast gas geyser, just a fast link speed here out of Shin. Likewise, he's still making more links.
You have to try and
Shin is all in.
Out of this. As Shin, it was a bold play, going for the fast mine out there on the minerals, but he hasn't yet been able to breach into the base of Shin.
So I have to push back against what Stay just said. Stay, he was like, you have to transition out of this. I mean, Shin has 13 drones. Like, we got to commit. He doesn't get the gateway.
He does throw down another structure. The thing is that the damage output of 2 Adepts at the Wallen is going to be so high. I'm not sure Shin can make this work, but you know, you might as well try and get some.
Does he get in? No.
With the links that you've already got, right?
Yeah, Shin, he doesn't get in, and things are looking dire for Shin. Classic is freely expanding, getting his natural, and Shin, again, he was on 13 drones for so long. Finally, Shin starts to drone up, but he is far behind.
Sometimes when you do go for these early attacks as the Zerg player, a threat is if they respond with 2 gateways, they could then just run across the map with a lot of Zealots and Adepts and make it very difficult for you to take a 3rd base or to drone up at your natural. But that's going to be less of an issue, of course, with speed and with one of the gateways getting killed off. So I like that Shin tried it. Classic's natural also was pretty late, considering the fact that he went for this double gate response as well. So there's still leeway here for Shin to try and get back in this early game, I would say. It's not like he's been at a total loss, because of course this will be a delayed natural.
Do we have any defensive lings?
But now is the question of can he defend these triple adepts?
Oh, that queen pops out of the opportune moment. The
very nice Eva chamber.
Well. Shades will get past that. They're going to find their way into the main base, but the Lings have already come back from across the map. That's going to lead to a cancel and perhaps a recall? No, no recall.
Again?
Okay, finally now it's coming through, but
the Evil, very nice defense.
Drone? No, 0 drones picked off by Classic. Oh, Shin's got to be feeling so good about that.
Yeah, that's a great defense. I mean, 3 adepts at that point when your Lings were a bit out of
That
position
was amazing.
as well. Very easy to lose control there and lose a couple drones. The Evo chamber block maybe doesn't go off, and then suddenly you're kind of spiraling with already a low drone count. So very nice defense from Shin. We'll send some more of these Lings across. Of course, it did kind of force a few extra Lings, which is still a win for Classic in that regard, but losing an adept or 2, forcing the recall early and not actually getting drone damage directly is gonna, of course, be feeling a little bit bad for him, but I would say this is still fine, playable. This is kind of an equalized early game from both players, I'd say.
Yeah, and Shin's doing one of the things that he does best in this game, which is just kind of throw the Protoss off their rhythm. I mean, so much of Protoss development in the early game is about kind of just crossing your T's, dotting your I's, making sure that you're macroing everything properly, making sure that your build is streamlined. And Shin has succeeded in making this game weird. This is a very uncomfortable position for Classic to be in, and I think he feels a little bit pressed to try and get damage done. So Classic right now committing with a fair number of adepts, going to see if he can find that damage. Unfortunately, I think Shin has enough Lings to deal with this. We'll see.
This is actually interesting, though, because it is a lot of adepts, and he does have that Oracle there to help as well. You could pressure this third base for a good amount of time. You keep sending the Shades across, and those Queens alone shouldn't really be able to. Okay, I guess it is going to scare the adepts away. I was going to say they don't.
I think it's important to just bear in mind as well that yes, on the one hand, Classic's natural is late and his third is late, and the game is quote unquote weird. But I would still favor Classic's economy compared to Shin. Right? Shin, he had a very long time to join up his main, join up his natural. And even here, joining up his third base is very delayed as well. Typically, the Zerg player wants to be up in workers compared to the Protoss, and Shin has not been up in workers at all this entire game. Classic has had the better economy and has had the more efficient army so far. Baneling's going to be crucial here in the defense. Without them, it's going to be a shaky defense here for Shin.
Shin is right now only at 48 drones to the 44 of Classic. Classic has been utilizing his army presence on the map to try and keep.
Yeah, it looks like they finally got there, where they just said that, like, hey, Shin's drone count is actually really low, and it has been the entire game.
Threat of this push. He doesn't know if there's a Glaives follow-up to this. He doesn't know exactly what the timings are going to be here for Classic. And this is keeping Shin on a pretty low drone count.
Yeah, I love this response from Classic. This is something similar that I've seen and that I've done as well, versus like if you get 12 pulled early, you can just get a lot of early adepts if they don't have speed, and then you can just consistently force Shades, and it's so difficult for the Zerg. As another great attack comes in from Classic, killing 8 drones, sacrificing 1 Oracle to do so. I think that's very worthwhile, considering the fact that Shin's already gone a low eco as well. So very nice setup there for Classic. And the Shades just constantly make it so difficult for the Zerg to know, are you actually going to...
And remember, important to emphasize, it isn't just 8 drones going down, it's 8 drones going down against a Zerg player who already had a low drone count, so Shin falls further behind economically.
Saturation here, mostly focusing on the minerals, is playing a +1 melee style. Oh, 4th hatchery. Classic, if he wanted to, could activate those oracles, take that hatchery down, and potentially the drone, but instead he's going to try and go back to the third base so he can find some damage. Queen's already really laying on the hurt to these oracles, though.
Stasis Sword's going to try to go down, but enough Queens there will be able to DPS that away, so nicely done from Shin. Good defense there, but again, the worker count is pretty equal, which is, I feel like from a Zerg POV, not exactly what you're looking for. And he's also got a big round of drones coming up right now as Classic is starting to set up yet another pressure.
Yeah, Classic is pushing towards the 4th base.
Side. He does have Blink and
that's a decent army, and his goal here is to force a cancel or even kill.
Just now, he's just trying to maybe delay a 4th base, maybe get a cancel if possible, or again, just forcing more units that are not drones, because he's going to be setting himself up for that storm, for that Blink.
Yeah, Oracles are his supports. Baneling's going to be waddling in.
Hydra Ling Bane.
Can fix on the Banelings in time.
All right, Shin going for this round right now. Adept Shades.
Oh my god, force a recall.
Not going to complete. Instead, Classic going for the recall. Banelings did not get the connection. They were blocked by the Lings. So Classic not losing too much, but the 4th hatchery, it does survive.
Yeah, it would have been great if he could kill that, obviously. It was very low. You could see Classic kind of was trying to get those last couple hits with the Oracle, but unable to do so. A bit of an overextension, but again, the recall was able to save quite a few units, so I think it's not really that big of a deal, but having...
I would even say that was still better for Classic here. He didn't really lose anything. He recalled back home, he was able to preserve his army, of course, now claiming his own 4th base as well, and what's important is that hatchery is low, and it's gonna stay low for quite some time, so Classic can still hit that base, and he's going for it. He wants it. He wants the hatchery. 2 more volleys. Oh no. Thus, he gets it.
4th base, that's actually great, but a couple Templar are getting caught as well.
Yeah, 4th base gets cleaned up, but now we have a lot of
Recall's
links coming in. I think eventually Classic's going to have to trade out this army, so it's all about taking the best trade possible. He's going to blink forward, try and get the Hydralisks. This is the price that you pay. Classic moving out to try and snipe that 4th hatchery with no recall. Was it worth it? I think that question is up in the air. Personally, I don't think so. That was a lot of Stalkers traded. But the economy of SHIN, it has been significantly interrupted by this.
Yeah, that is a very bold move that Classic went to. I mean, considering he just used...
I mean, unfortunately, he had no Oracle support. The Oracles, it would have been ideal there to support the army, to save the army from the surround, but the Oracles are out of position, and on top of that, we see here that SHIN has been able to run up to 80 workers. Now he's building back up his economy. Classic did lose 2 High Templar as well. Don't forget that. He lost 2 High Templar that were mid-transition, that were mid-rotation. That was also another big pickup. So now we're getting messy. We're getting messy.
As well. It's going to be very difficult to do so.
Yeah, the Overlord's moving now on a trajectory towards the main base of Classic Forge.
All the contamination.
Contaminated, plus 2 ground weapons will be delayed, but it's not near completion just yet. And Classic is trying to set up for the 4-base play where you hunker down.
Yeah, you can see how much momentum Classic lost after losing that army. Like, it takes a long time to replenish those Stalkers and to replenish the High Templar as well. Like, you want to build them up over time. Here go the Banelings.
Banelings now coming into the 3rd, forcing a response from Classic. The Storm's going to land. And now even more Templar are getting caught. I think 1 or 2 of them do fall. We have 3 Templar remaining here.
Losing another Templar.
SHIN's able to pick them up, and now the drop is in the main base.
Yeah, this is going to be devastating damage. There's really nothing to defend except for a single cannon, although the Warp-in Templar using battery recharge also going to get thrown down there, so it's going to help with the defense, but 14 probes have already gotten killed off, and there's still more units rallying across the map for SHIN. He's got plenty of army supply, and there's nothing to defend over here on this right-hand side for now.
Yeah, SHIN, he's just pulling Classic apart. He's being pulled apart here. Classic losing 14 workers. He does still maintain his 4 bases, but these are heavy losses for Classic.
The mothership behind all this, it did not get started because Classic, he needed to scrap together all of the bank that he had to try and hold on, whether it be warping in Zealots, whether it be warping in Templar for Storms and for Archon, throwing down more static defense. He simply couldn't afford to start the mothership, but now that timer has begun. If the mothership gets out on the field, it'll go a long way towards helping Classic stabilize and moving on to the next stage of this game.
That Templar Warp-in with the energy recharge as well was so clutch from Classic. If he didn't actually have that cooldown online or any energy, that would have done way more damage in the main base with the Zerglings and the Hydras. So very nice to be able to get that. We'll keep him alive for now, but again, the army supply difference is still very drastic at this point. And like State said, this is all hinging on that mothership. Needs to make sure that he can get that out to be able to secure this defense. But until that point, it's going to still be very up in the air as more probes.
Yeah, the soup just isn't there. He can't defend. Once again, the main army was in the main base, not here on the forward at the 3rd.
So good split so far, but these drop overlords are still a menace.
Yeah, Mothership is finishing up, but the 3rd expansion here for Classic has lost a lot of workers.
Archons are going down.
This is going to fall, and the Mothership
the Mothership,
oh my God.
Hydras,
but there's just enough.
He intercepts the Mothership coming out. That's insane. I can't believe he actually gets that.
Yeah, the Mothership falling. I mean, that's such a tragic loss here for Classic. 20 more workers going down. I mean, SHIN, the impressive part about all of this timing is that he's actually been cost efficient in these trades. It is Classic who has lost more resources trying to hold on. That's a big reason why it's SHIN up 70 supply here as he streams more units across the map. Classic down. Just a couple of units left. I mean, the Kabarian Amulet comes in again here with energy recharge on a Warped-in Templar. That is 1 Storm that catches some Lings, but I think it is not going to be enough.
Yeah, you can see Classic shaking his head on cams there as SHIN has done it. He breaks on through, he overwhelms, and Classic is going to be the first player to be knocked out of the playoffs of RSL. GG.
3-1 in this first lower bracket match. Classic out of the RSL. Another disappointing season from him this year.
Yeah, it's a bit of an upset for Classic getting knocked out, but I mean, going up against SHIN, who seems to be playing the best that he has played really in recent memory, going back maybe to the last time that he was in the GSL Finals versus Mars some years ago. I mean, SHIN just looks incredible. You know, he's playing these very aggressive styles, he's going for kind of quirky openings, but the way that he's doing it, everything is kind of unique, you know? Every single game isn't exactly the same. He's not giving Classic one panacea. It's like, well, Classic can go for just one kind of build or one kind of style to deal with everything that SHIN throws at him. No, we have drones mining out minerals in the early stages with an early pool just to make the game weird. We have Hydralisk busts. We have mass Overlord drops into the main base. We have Muta Corruptor into Ultra. SHIN is playing the complete package of ZBP right now.
Yeah, it's really cool how unique each of those games looked. It was none of them were a carbon copy of each other, and it's just showing that, like you said, SHIN just kind of has this mastery of the matchup at this point, at least versus Classic. Unfortunately, wasn't able to show that too much versus Hero earlier on in the tournament, but was able to at least bring it out versus Classic when everything was on the line, so that's good to see from him, and we'll be moving forward to move on later.
Kind of. So talking about the games themselves here, GG well played. SHIN, he does claim the series. Classic, he's the first player out of the RSL playoffs. Again, Classic having a lackluster performance here, but if you looked at the games themselves, again, Classic, he was definitely a little bit rough around the edges here. I'm still thinking about the game where SHIN would go into mutas, where he got into muta play on Ruby Rock, where Classic, he overreacted, over-responded, he was very unprepared, despite even seeing the Spire and the F-Twing all the way into the main base. There were a couple of big moments like that where we saw him barely, you know, take a loss and everything just snowball out of control. Another example of that is the game that we just had on 10,000 feet with Classic overextending. Sure, he did snipe the 4th base, but he lost so much supply, losing Stalkers, losing a High Templar, losing Adepts, and everything just snowballed out of control from there, because after that loss, that allowed SHIN to drone up. He droned up to 80 workers to be able to take full map control and just snowball from there. So again, there were a couple of key moments in each game where Classic did slip up. Still thinking about Exarch, where Classic didn't fully wall off, for example. There's like a couple of key moments like that where, again, these small missteps, these small mistakes did end up costing Classic the game and the series. GG well played. With that, congratulations. SHIN will claim the series. We're going to be going on a short break. When we come back, we'll have our next matchup. It is going to be a best of 5 between Rogue and Bunny. Oh boy, we'll see you soon. We'll see you soon after the break.